How are we? Hope you've had an amazing weekend and you are doing lots of fun things on this Monday. I know a lot of people struggle with Mondays. It's a little bit like, oh, back to work, blah, blah, blah. Completely get it. We've all been there, I suppose, at different points in our lives. But I hope that you had a really fulfilling weekend. I know the other day I really spoke about making sure that you do a lot of things that fulfill you, because that's the most important thing in life. It's not about being happy. It's not about having a lot of money. It's not about doing all the things that are material. It's about being fulfilled within. So I hope that all worked for you. I hope you had a really, really great time. This podcast actually, this live stream actually today is because I listened to an incredible, I really don't know why, every time I decide to do a live stream, this dog bulldozes through the room. Yeah, so essentially, oh, okay, I'm just reading notifications, sorry. So, I have basically listened to a podcast this morning when it's talking about relationships. It's called He Said, She Said. So if I can try and get the link and pop it underneath. It's an incredible podcast about like human behaviour. So for me, I'm really passionate about human behaviour. I'm passionate about what makes people tick. I'm passionate about behaviours, whether they're learned, whether they're innate, the programming of mind, all sorts of really different things are all things that I'm super passionate about. So today is slightly different. I know I usually tend to focus on mindset or on business or the clients or creating an income or whatever, or health is another thing that I'm really as a nutritional therapist, I guess. But today I really wanted to home in on relationships, because I know that they are so critical to your fulfillment. And essentially, I mean, Tony Robbins said it all the time. His company was making billions, but he was miserable at home, and that's so true for a lot of people. A lot of the time people are really not that happy at home, despite being very successful in other areas of their life. So today I really wanted to talk about different ways and the different ways people think when it comes to relationships and communication and how it works, because men and women work completely different. And by no means is my relationship the best relationship in the world. I don't really believe in that anyway. It's the best relationship that I feel like I could be in, but I'm very aware and conscious that it's very varied across the board for what people want. So this one was talking today about why we do what we do. So I'll tell you a little bit about my background with my boyfriend and how it all worked and how this all happened. But I originally, we got it on straight away. We got on so well. We met very randomly in a coffee shop in Mayfair, and we ended up on holiday within a week. So we had an incredible, very whirlwind relationship, and we were living with each other very quick as well. So, but it just felt right. Now the thing is with that is that at the beginning, you just don't know each other very well. And we had to learn to adapt to each other, learn each other's behaviours, learn each other's mannerisms, learn each other's ways of thinking. And it's just about fine-tuning all the little bits to make it click, and it becomes perfect. As perfect can be, I guess. But I'm talking across the board how that can be, it's very different for different people. And I was listening to this podcast, and it was about the psychologist. I really can't remember her name, but she was phenomenal. I will find out and I will pop it in the link underneath. But she was talking about human behaviour, because it's really interesting about communication with men and women. And it actually, a lot of the time, is stemmed from being very young. So she'd been watching people from being children, and she was looking at how men interacted and how women interacted, so with the same sex. So women, or little girls at the time, were always facing each other, and they would talk and they would lean into each other a lot. And that indicates how women are in terms of communication with each other. And the guys were sat parallel, and they were a little bit like dazing all over the place and looking around, and weren't as engaged within each other. And it actually is a pattern that is extended as you grow up. Now, that's not to say it's the same across the board for everybody. It's definitely not to say that everybody, you know, every male is acting like that and every female is acting like that. But what it does is really highlight and help you understand how people are. So you probably know, and I'm very guilty of it as a girl, I really don't like it. I didn't, it's not so much anymore, but I hated that I really didn't like when I was talking and like, it was not just this relationship, any relationship with anything, and someone's disengaged and they're looking around the room, or not so much slouch, but they're looking around and something this happens or something happens over there and they're like this all the time. And I really didn't like it, and I didn't understand it. I never understood why guys were like that and why girls, I could sit and have a conversation with my girlfriends and we'd be so engaged for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and we'd talk and it'd be great and I wouldn't have to sit and think whether they'd switched off. But for some reason, with a guy, I was always like that. And that's my guy mates as well. That's not just a guy in, like, I was dating, because I've got a lot of guy mates and they're exactly the same. And I was like, why is it? And I'd never understood. And that really made me think, oh my gosh, that's quite true. And it's just about different communication styles, and this is what you have to learn, and this is across the board with anything. You have to learn how to read a person and understand how they communicate, because it's so important. And you know, if you're in sales, for example, you have to really understand the other person, get into their head, get into their thoughts, get into their emotions, get into that person and really feel what they're feeling in that moment and anticipate what's going to happen next, or what you would do in their situation, because probably that's what they would do as well. So because a lot of what we do is quite already programmed, and we act in certain ways for different things, and so communication is so vital. And there was another story in there actually about this woman whose boyfriend, she was like, right, I really need to talk to you, it's really important that we talk, blah, 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 and he'd go, okay, fine. And he would sit there, he would lie down when she wanted to speak and put his arm over his face, and she would be so mad, and she'd be like, you're not listening, why are you not listening, I'm trying to talk, I'm trying to communicate, and blah, 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 blah. And it was never ever something that it would cause a lot of problems within their relationship. Oh my gosh, Alfie! It would cause a lot, sorry, that's my dog going crazy. It would cause a lot of problems within their relationship. I'm just going to shut this door. And it was simply because a lot of the time, she would just feel like he wasn't engaged and he wasn't interested in what she was saying. And then, as time gone on, she said to him, she asked him, she communicated with him, she's like, why is it that every single time I go to sit down and speak to you, your arm goes over your face? She was like, I feel really like you're not engaging with me, I feel very disengaged by you. And she found it quite offensive. So she said to him, well, you know, why is it? And he said, because I know that when I'm talking to you, when you're talking to me, you feel as though that I'm not listening. So I cover my eyes so I'm not looking around the room and being distracted. And then it all homes in. It's like, if you've ever been this as well, you go home to your boyfriend, and your boyfriend will go and tell you, he'll be like, oh, I've got this problem, blah, blah, blah. It could be a problem with your relationship with your friends, it could be a problem at work, it could be anything. And you go and speak to your boyfriend, and he'll go, right, okay, this is what you need to do. And you just sit there and you're like, I don't need an answer, I don't want an answer. And that is just, again, like, that's what guys are like. They are very good at problem solving. And sometimes as a female, all you want is to be listened to and to be felt listened to, especially if in this situation that you're complaining about or concerned about is probably a better word. Especially if in that conversation you are feeling like you're not being listened to. So you want to go to your partner, and they're going to be able to help you going forward with that, just to listen. But they will be there and they'll try and help, and they'll try and give you a solution, try and help you, and you get pissed off about it. And it's like, that is what they are doing, because that is, they think you're going to go to them for the help, and they're coming at you with very good intentions to be able to help you further. And it all, again, stems down from being younger, because guys are just naturally very good at problem solving, very good at logical thinking, whereas women are a lot more emotional. So when you're wanting to go to your partner for some really, really good emotional support and they're trying to help you with logic, that's why women are getting annoyed. And it's the same with, on the other hand, when you're, as a female, just because a guy is looking all over, it doesn't necessarily mean he's not listening if he doesn't look engaged. But it's all about understanding the other person, understanding when that person is communicating with you and when that person is listening to you. And those things are so, so important when it comes to being in a relationship, when it comes to making a relationship work, because it is so incredibly key. And again, I'm talking a lot about this podcast because it's very, very good about relationships and very good about the differences between men and women and how we all think. Especially if you're very interested in human behaviour, if you're interested in how people think, this is very, very good. And if you're in a relationship, it's going to help you no end in terms of understanding how your partner's thinking and things. And I know a lot of the time you think you know your partner, or you know, we always think we know our partners, and then when we break up we're like, oh, I don't think I know him, or when you come into the end. But really try to understand, because at a skin deep or very surface level, it's really, really easy to speak with a partner and to understand them, but really going deep and understanding. But we try not to do it through analysis. Try and just be very, very natural. Understand how they work, how they communicate. Whether they communicate or, a lot of the time just men and women just act and do things so very different. But again, it doesn't mean that anyone's trying to be disrespectful. And one of the presuppositions with NLP is what we have to go in with anyway, is that everybody has good intentions. So you have to just assume that whatever's going on, or whatever they're doing it with the best of intentions. So it could be with the best resources that they have, it could be with the best intent that they have in that moment, it could be with the best feeling, emotion. Sorry about that, I just had a phone call. So essentially, that is some of the most incredible advice I've ever listened to when it comes to men, and all these really, really great things. I'm just getting messages and things coming through, I'm very sorry about that. All these really, really amazing things that will really, really help in terms of how you think, how you understand your partner, how you understand communication. Because I would be so pissed off a lot of the time over things, and you could ask anybody probably that I've been with, they'll tell you the same thing up until more recently. But I was very, very highly strung as a person. I would get very pissed off very easily. I would always feel like someone wasn't engaging unless it was sat down. Like, I was very militant about it. I'd be like, you need to sit down, you need to look at me, don't look anywhere else, put this away, put that away, have no distractions, look. And that's how I was, without understanding how people think. Because some people, especially if you try and get a guy to sit down and do that, a guy to sit down and go, right, you're going to look and you're going to listen to me, you're going to look nowhere else, they're going to switch off. Even if they're looking at you, they're probably looking straight through you. They're finding something else, or they're thinking about something else, because that is just how guys work. And you just have to understand that it's not always the way that you think it is. It's not always coming from a bad place. And it's the same with women. Like, just because a woman is a little bit more emotional generally, and I'm just talking at a general level here as opposed to specifics, because you could go a lot deeper with a lot of different emotions, with a lot of different circumstances, with a lot of different people. So I'm talking at a very, very basic level here. I'm talking at a very, very general level here, so that it's more applicable. Because obviously every relationship is different and every person is different, and you have to kind of take that into account. But basically, that is what I wanted to show you. I'm going to try and find the link actually for it, because it was incredible, really, really good. It was called He Said, She Said. If you go on iTunes, you'll probably find it on there, on a podcast. I don't know what, maybe searching Tony Robbins, it could be any personal development thing. I think it's called the personal development or personal growth or something like that. But it was really good. I'm going to find the link and I will pop it underneath. But definitely have a listen to it, particularly if you're in relationships. And I've got generally very good relationships with anybody that I've ever been with, or within my own relationship now, but only because I've learned to understand how a person is. Because it's very, very difficult to come from a place of not understanding when you It's hard to have a good relationship when you're coming from a selfish place. And I'm saying that with as much love as possible, but in relationships, it's not about what you can get out of it. And that is, again, was something that I was going so wrong with in my relationship. I was going, yeah, but you don't give me this, and you don't do that, and you don't do this, and you don't listen to me, and you don't pay attention, and you, all the time. That was me. I was that person. I was that girl, right? I was that girl. And I would really, really not like it if somebody wasn't doing something that was aligned to what I wanted them to do. The problem was not them. The problem was me. And I'll say that again because it's so important. The problem was not them, it was me. And that is, and it's so true, it's like taking ownership because it changes relationship. And Tony Robbins actually talks about this at the beginning. Imagine when you first get in a relationship, right? And you're like, they go, take the rubbish out. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to take the rubbish out, I'm going to take the rubbish out, and go. And you'll do anything that they say. You tell them to jump off Blackpool Tower, and you probably would do that too. So, but then, 6 months, 6 years, down the line, someone tells you to go and take the rubbish out. You're like, oh no, do I look like your, do I look like your servant? What do your last name die of? That is literally what it's like in every relationship. At the beginning of not every relationship, but a lot of the time it is how it works. So you have to really get an understanding of how to keep that spark alive with that person. And one of the best things you can do is learn them, understand them, try to get in their head. And like I said, coming from a place of love, get into their head, because it's really, really important in terms of keeping that spark alive in a relationship. And instead of trying to get another person to change, try to work on yourself. And I know that sounds really silly, but it's so selfish to expect another person it's so selfish to expect another person to change because it's not fitting what you expect them to do. It's like trying to, when you're a child and you have all these different shapes and you're trying to force the square into the circle and it's just not going in, and if you cut the edges off it might just fit. It doesn't work like that. Like, you can't do that. You have to work on you. Try to make yourself a better person, and it's not about what you can get out of a relationship. It really, really isn't. See how you can try and understand their way of thinking, their way of acting, their way of being, and go from that place, because it will really, really transform how you are with another person and how you think. And it's something that I've actually really come to understand. It's the same with any of my relationships with people now. I'm much better at communication, and I wasn't at first. Like, it was always my way or the highway. That was how I was as a person. You could ask anybody a few years ago and that was me. It was my way or the highway. There wasn't very much compromise. Once I made a decision, that was it. And in a lot of ways now, I make decisions very fast, and they're usually quite good. I don't really sit on them that well, and I don't really change my decision once I've made it. But I know how to compromise. I know how to meet in the middle. I know how to communicate. I know how to come from a place of love. And I know my partner very, very well, and he knows me incredibly well, and I know him very well, and it's all these different things that really make a huge, huge difference in the way that you are in a relationship, in the way you think and the way you act, because it will shift. Your whole relationship will change. You just have to learn to come up from a complete place of love and change yourself first before you even consider letting entertain that thought of trying to get somebody else to conform to your values, because it just won't work for them. And unfortunately, you'll end up finding, oh hi mom, you'll end up finding that it just won't fit. You're trying to fit a square inside a circle. So make sure you work on yourself before you try to tell somebody else how to conform in your relationship. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that's been helpful. I'm going to find the link as well. I think I sent it to somebody earlier on. I think I might have sent it to my boyfriend earlier on, actually. So I'm going to send this link. I'll find it for you and I'll pop it on, because it's really good. It's quite short. It's about 30 minutes long as an audio. So it's really, really good. It'll help you to understand how relationships work and how you think about your relationships as well. But enjoy your evening, everybody. I hope that's helped. Any questions, fire them away. But yeah, have a good evening. Bye. Bye.